videography license. Okay, you're on.
For joining us tonight. I'm Corinne.
I'm Jack.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Ben.
So to start off, we thought we'd introduce you to our sponsors. We are working with H2O Alb to create water utility educational resources. So H2O Alb is the Water Supply and Sewerage Association of Albania. And per their website, they have listed a vision and a mission. Their vision is to advance the quality of performance and sustainability in the water sector, along with leading resources for knowledge and professional development and networking in the water sector. They work very closely with the International Water Association as well as the European Water Association and many other water resources in the area.
Just for a quick show of hands, how many of you guys know where your drinking water comes from? Not too bad, not too bad. So, Tirana's water comes from Bovilla Lake. This is a reservoir in the Mountain National State Park, and there is a treatment facility on Bovilla Lake, and it is relatively clean, and then as it gets to Tirana, the water gets heavily polluted. For a quick show of hands, how many of you know where your wastewater goes? Oof, a little worse, okay. Half of Albanians' wastewater goes straight into rivers like the Tirana River, as you can see here. Tirana River starts out in a reservoir similar to Bovilla Lake, which is nice and clean, and as it progresses through the city, it gets very polluted and eventually ends up in the ocean, which is very bad for the environment.
So what is our goal? So our team, in conjunction with H2O Alb, created this project to educate the public in Tirana, Albania, to create a generation of Albanian citizens who understand the process of water and wastewater treatment, who will stress the importance of clean water and water conservation for generations to come.
So before we go over our objectives, we will go over the main issue at hand. So here in the United States, we enjoy a generally high level of trust and satisfaction amongst our drinking water. When you turn on a tap, you know with decent level of confidence that the water coming out is trustworthy. And that is largely thanks to a set of standards that we have adopted here. In the 1970s, the Safe Drinking Water Act, SDWA, was passed. And this set a level of outlines for different substances that may be in drinking water. For instance, you have PFAS, you may have other contaminations such as phosphates, you might have nitrates, you might have microorganisms. And since a maximum limit of these contaminants was established and it was enforced, we now have a higher level of trust in the water system as a result. And due to Albania's status as a developing country, recently being emerged from a communist dictatorship and a difficult political climate, they are still in development of such infrastructure, and there is a lack of a clear and concise set of rules like we enjoy here. And what comes with this is a lack of trust, potential public safety hazards, and more. And another issue at hand with the Albanian drinking water infrastructure is a general lack of information made available. Again, here in the United States, we have the liberty to where you could go on Google right now and you could find out an exact layout, as well as information on the quality of drinking water, contaminants that it may have, whatnot. But in Albania, that information is not nearly as available. And a final issue of concern is that there is a general lack of knowledge amongst the public regarding the subject. So instilling change can be quite difficult, which is what we aim to solve.
Similar to the water infrastructure, Albania's wastewater infrastructure is also very old and not well maintained. However, there are current investments. They focus more on the cities because most of the population is in the cities. However, this leaves rural areas behind. As that being said, only half the population in Albania has sewer systems. Albania uses sewer systems known as combined sewer systems. These systems combine wastewater and stormwater, which might seem like a good idea at first because stormwater can have contaminants in it. However, when a storm comes, this can lead to making the system too much to handle and discharging raw waste into the rivers. As you can see in this picture on your guys' right is a common wastewater treatment process in the United States where you have raw sewage, and throughout, by the end goal, you want to have discharged surface water to be cleaner than the water that is being discharged into the river. And according to the European Environmental Agency, Albania ranks last in Europe for bathing water quality.
So why does this matter to us? So as we said before, many Albanians lack the clear information needed to learn about water usage and treatment, and we aim to fix this. So by educating them, we look to build awareness and responsibility in not only the older citizens, but the newer generations to come. While we create these new informed citizens, they will be better equipped to advocate for themselves as well as their community to try and improve the infrastructure and policy regarding these sustainable practices. And so by teaching the next generation about clean water conservation, we will support long-term goals rather than short-term goals and try to fix the problem at hand for the future.
So to show you guys how we plan to do this, we thought a little timeline roadmap would be best. So our first step is something we've already been doing here in Worcester. We've been reviewing previous data to see, from other IQPs, to see what information is already available to us to learn and work on our objectives. So last year's IQP also worked with SHUCALB. They mainly worked with a brewery and learned from that brewery that all of the waste from the brewery was just let back into the environment, which touches on stormwater runoff and poor management of water usage. Our next objective focuses on semi-structured interviews with water and wastewater professionals. So these interviews will be conducted for about 45 to 60 minutes, and we'll have 10 to 15 questions about how their infrastructure works, what they wish they could do better, and just their general opinions on how wastewater and water is cleaned throughout Albania. Our third objective looks at Likert-style surveys to gather public opinions. So this will be more of an informal style, going into public spaces or door-to-door techniques to ask people on a scale from strongly disagree to agree on questions on how they gather their information, or like what sources they use, what they think of their water, and what they could do better. After we have that, we will like to summarize our data and organize it into what people best learn from, whether that's from engaging activities throughout the community or through news articles that are posted on social media. Because of summarizing all that data, we hope to make digital media for the Albanian public. This can be, we hope to create a website and or use social media, as that is what most people use these days, to present all this information, which Jack will touch on later. Finally, we hope that all this information will provide SHUCALB with a lot of data so that they can continue educating the public on water usage and water conservation.
Based on the nature of our project and of the research that we have done, as well as the fact that a main component of our deliverables is publicity and spreading the word of our findings, we've determined that the most effective way of communicating our ideas is through online content, as Corinne mentioned. And firstly, what we're going to do to accomplish this is making a website. So on this website, we will have the ability to publish things such as frequently asked questions, public service announcements, guides on how to use sensory tests to determine if water is safe to consume or what may be wrong with it, as well as guides to make sure that what you're using is safe. Another cool thing that we can do with this website is coordinate with SHUCALB as well as utility providers to publish utility reports that the utility providers are putting out. And what this will do is it will further communicate that if there are any issues that people should be aware about, it lets people know of their risks as well as how people should take action for these. A second deliverable to further communicate our ideas to a broader audience is the use of social media. Studies do show that for people under the age of 21, their main source of news is through social media rather than your traditional media outlets. So we have decided to put up a social media page which will have the same content generally as our website, as well as additional maybe fun information that can go out there, help spread the word to a wider audience. And the cool thing about having a website and a social media is that it can be communicated to a wider range of audience past Tirana and to the general population of Albania, which only serves to help people further. Our last potential deliverable that we came up with was an interactive map. And what this entails is having a virtual tour ran by one of us of a treatment plant, whether it be wastewater or for drinking water. And we believe that this will help communicate the complicated intricacies that go into treating water, and through that, people have a greater understanding of what they should expect their government to provide them through public service.
So some of the limitations that we face, a lot of them have to deal with the recent history that has taken place in Albania. So a lot of citizens still believe there is some corruption in government, and which has led to a lot of gaps between the knowledge that the government has and what it chooses to share with the public. And these gaps have created a lot of mistrust in the public between people and state. And this mistrust will likely bleed into our interviews and research, as people may have biases coming in, as well as choose to hold on to information as they might be scared it might get shared publicly.
In addition to these challenges, we also have ethical considerations to account for. Because we are outsiders coming into a place where the public might not trust a lot of people considering their history, we have to make sure that we are aware of all items that, so we will be providing our participants in the surveys and interviews with an informed consent agreement that they will either sign physically or verbally, allowing us to share the information that they so choose in our final report. We will also share our report with SHUCALB and our advisors to make sure that any information shared is what the participants, what it's sharing what they would like to be shared and told in the correct way.
So what will our lasting impact be? So like we said before, we plan to leave Albania with a published online educational water resource, whether that be social media or a website or a map. We want to have something out there for the public to interact with. And our hope is that once we leave Albania, SHUCAB will continue to run and update our content to keep it growing in popularity and get it as the general public source for information on the water sector. And that way, we will leave knowing that the people of Tirana have a greater knowledge of water, and hopefully they can instill some change for the future.